to El Paso. Welcome to my community, to the new Ellis Island, to the capital of the border.
Here to react, we welcome in Jason Jones, former captain of the Texas Department of Public Safety. Our Monday regulars, Joe DeGeneva, Victoria Tunsing here as well. I see everyone's mix of smiles and shaking their heads. Jason, start us off, if you don't mind. The Congresswoman's comments specifically likening the U.S.-Mexico border to the new Ellis Island. What'd you make of that remark?
Yeah, and absolutely false. It's terrible, though, that statement being made, especially when we're seeing what we're seeing at the southwest border. Remember, Texas, because of this surge, has now spent over $1.1 billion to try to combat it, because with every surge, we see something different. And what we see right now is something we've never seen. First is that the world is coming. It's not just U.S.-Mexico, as you know, the American people are always told. Second, we are seizing more fentanyl from the Mexican cartels at that southern border that affects every American and every town in this country like never before. And third and final, the one that really concerns me as well, is this transition from human smuggling into human trafficking that the cartels are doing. And then this administration now moving these people who are crossing into this country, supposedly from Ellis Island, the new Ellis Island, as they're saying, as they're transitioning these people throughout this country, we're going to see human trafficking in every part of this country like we've never seen. So I'll say it right now, this will be the worst border crisis in American history because of those three factors I just mentioned.
And quite frankly, like I said, even in the previous block with our guest, I like to look at the numbers here. And in May alone, it was 180,000 migrants crossing the border. And of course, we keep in mind those are the people who were found at the border, right? Who didn't just pass through without being caught
right.
by Border Patrol. I want to play for you sound from the Vice President insisting that this is about restoring humanity at the border. Listen to this.
Let's not lose sight of the fact that we're talking about stories that, as the bishop shared and many of the community folks shared, involve horrendous tales of abuse and fear and harm, not only for folks who are coming here in their home country experiencing that, but along the path of their migration.
And perhaps that was something she'd learned when addressing the root causes of the border. But as we talk about this drug crisis, the human trafficking crisis, the fentanyl that's coming over the border, Joe, what do you think about the Vice President making the trip finally after months? And do you think it will be effective in actually stopping the current situation that we're seeing, where we're seeing so many migrants cross?
No, her verbiage will not stop anything. First of all, it's a diversion. It's an effort to blame this on anybody but themselves. They caused this when they changed the Trump policies, ended stay in Mexico, ended fraudulent asylum claims. And so as a result of that, they opened up the doors, told everybody to come here, and they're coming. This is disgusting. I think also the Congresswoman who introduced our segment, who called this the new Ellis Island, let me remind her, in case she has forgotten, that the people at Ellis Island were coming to this country to seek legal entry. The people who are coming through the Texas border now at the invitation of the Biden administration are coming illegally, against the law. And it's an embarrassment that the Vice President of the United States, who is displaying either monumental ignorance or purposeful mendacity, isn't making the distinction. It's pretty clear that she doesn't like this job that's been given to her, and it shows that she's a lightweight, a true policy lightweight.
And Victoria, yeah, it's been a tremendous job that, quite frankly, the Vice President has been tasked with because of the record numbers we're seeing.
Well, come on, Emma. All she has to do is start that wall building again and go back to the policy that you stay in Mexico. I could do it. I could do it in a heartbeat. Get the policies back in place that President Trump had. The humanitarian crisis that she must be talking about are taking place in the places in the United States where these people are being kept, including the children, where they're on suicide watch. There are reports of rapes of children. That's the humanitarian crisis. She's bringing them right into the United States and not addressing them. Shame, shame.
Yeah, obviously your advice to the VP, head back to Trump-era policies. Of course, remain in Mexico. We saw during the pandemic Title 42 as well. Jason, do you think those policies would help address the three issue areas that you point out if they're reinstated?
Absolutely, we know it will. And the data shows that, just so you know. I mean, look at where we were in 2020. We were at an all-time low for immigration. And remember, we always talk about that immigration layer, right? But with illegal immigration, the overdoses and the fentanyl that are caused by that. So we know that it helps, and the data proves that from U.S. Customs and Border Protection. It's not a perception issue. But if you look at those laws that Trump instilled, they did work, and the data shows it.
All right. That is Jason Jones joining us live on the program. Thank you very much, Jason. We appreciate it.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.